if we really want to excite people, we got to get our taste score as high as we go. And that's the intent. It's really a level of information that does not traditionally exist in the restaurant world.
Okay, welcome back to the Marketing Playbook, presented by Details Interactive. Here you'll take away 3 game-winning marketing plays every episode to take back to your team. I'm your host, Mark Friedman, and my career has been focused on direct-to-consumer marketing, direct mail, physical retail, and digital commerce. This is episode number 61, and today's guest is Scott Hilton. Scott is the CEO of Wonder, an innovative way to have prepared meals delivered to your home. He describes it as on-demand dining. Scott describes himself as a fixer, and he's been a part of some of the largest e-commerce businesses in the world. Before we get started, a quick thank you, as always, to Max Brandstetter of the Wild Business Growth Podcast for producing this episode. You can reach him at maxpodcasting.com to help bring your podcast to life. Let's open the playbook. Ready, break. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the Marketing Playbook Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Scott Hilton. Scott is the CEO of Wonder. Previously, Scott was the Chief Revenue Officer for U.S. e-commerce at Walmart and led the teams focused on driving Walmart's business across all U.S. sites, including Walmart.com, Jet.com, Hayneedle, and others. Over his career, Scott has served in a variety of roles across companies from startups to large enterprises, including Chief Revenue Officer for Jet.com, EVP of Operations at Quidsy Inc./Amazon.com, and numerous roles at the Boeing Company. Scott, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mark. Pleasure to be here.
Well, I really appreciate you joining. Before we got started here, for our listeners, we're recording this towards the middle of July 20th of 2022. We were reminiscing about the start of Wonder. It's a great story. We're going to get into that in a bit. And as I mentioned, this is my 61st show. I can't imagine any other show where I've had more interest from my friends about the guest that I was interviewing.
Oh, wow. It's quite an honor. And congrats on all the shows. That's quite a feat.
Well, thanks very much. It's been fun. I've met lots of good people like you, and every one of them gracious with their time. So the way we start this show, Scott, is try to get some perspective for the listeners about your background, how you got to where you are today. And for the listeners, obviously you can't see, Scott's got an amazing background going right now. He's in one of the World Trade businesses, and I can see the beautiful New York skyline behind him.
Yeah, I could even show you the Empire, or the Statue of Liberty down there somewhere. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, there you go. Very nice.
A very fortunate location. A background. So I grew up in Washington State. So originally from the Northwest in a city called Bellingham, Washington. Not a huge city, but not super small. It was probably at the time around 50,000 folks. Probably some of my earliest memories are related to a business my grandfather had started as a shoe store business, and it was operated by my dad at the time. And I very early can picture myself sitting in the back room of this shoe store. My dad was probably babysitting me and kind of looking around. And so there's always that air of business around. And my dad would drag me around to different things. By the time I reached high school, my dad had opened up a women's clothing store as well. And the shoe store is run by my oldest brother. And so I worked for my oldest brother selling shoes in high school and then through college, and was just exposed to various parts of business. I think probably one thing that sort of was an indication of the type of work I would probably get into was I can recall my oldest brother getting upset with me. Is like, stop trying to fix everything. And that's kind of a lot of the roles that I have and enjoy is like just really getting into running things and solving the puzzle that sort of any business or any operation is. From there, I went to school and then completely went into an area that was kind of unique compared to my family. I started to work for the Boeing Company. I went to school and got a degree in physics and math. My undergrad was at the University of Puget Sound. Went to grad school at Cornell in engineering physics, and then started working for the Boeing Company. Did a variety of roles. Started on the technical side, of things, worked on the commercial airplane side in this unit called customer engineering, product development, product strategy. I was there for almost 20 years. And in that process, ended up getting an exec MBA from Wharton down in San Francisco. They have a campus down there, and would travel down every few weeks for that program, and met a guy named Mark Laurie that some of your listeners probably have heard of or seen in the news. We were on the same team together. And Mark had started a company at the time called 1-800-Diapers. And it was very small. And when we were in school, he was kind of showing us the website and everything. It was really quite fascinating. This was in 2005. And that business started to grow, and he ended up leaving the program. And then a few months later called me to say, hey, why don't you come join me out in New Jersey to run our operations? And so I was effectively the first hire. He had a few folks he was working with to get the thing off the ground with his good buddy at the time, but I became kind of the first full-time hire back in, and joined in 2007. So I actually ended up leaving Boeing, and I'd reached a really nice level at Boeing, really exciting work. It was a great company at the time, and but gave that all up and did this startup, basically selling diapers through what became diapers.com in New Jersey. And so I ran operations there. We added a lot of different websites. We sold that company to Amazon, stayed at Amazon for a few years. And then we did jet.com. I joined Mark at jet.com. I ran the retail team for jet.com. And then we sold that to Walmart, and ended up, like you said at the beginning, Mark, I was the Chief Revenue Officer for U.S. e-commerce for Walmart, which is effectively running the retail team.
So let me stop you there. Great background. When you were in school, this physics, mathematics component, did you have a thought of what you would be using physics and mathematics to do to earn a living?
No, which is kind of the way I'm kind of a here and now type person. I just know I enjoyed it a lot. In fact, I went to undergrad thinking I was going to go into pre-law and focus on that. I don't think I took a single pre-law class, but after a while I was like, wow, I'm really enjoying these physics classes. So I just kind of ended up getting a physics and math degree without really planning for the future.
Well, sometimes you don't have to, plan, but, part of the listeners in the show, we've kind of got a mix. We've got some, early stage folks, early in their career trying to, create this path. And then, you've got people that are more senior and, trying to figure out what their next role is. Lots of people that we talk to, have been very prescriptive in their career. Every change that they have made, brought them something new. So as you've, moved through your career that you just delineated, were you thinking that with each new opportunity, you helped round out your profile, or was it just happenstance how they came about?
It's a great question. And I have met a lot of folks that are, like, as you said, kind of very prescriptive. I did this with the intention of doing that. For me, it was more about doing at the moment what I thought I was interested in, and also, added value, but also keeping an eye to opportunity as it came along. And I think that's really kind of the angle that I saw, is that as long as you're open to opportunity and kind of like always pushing the edges to keep those opportunities open, there's some really prized ones that come along. And in many cases, folks that I've known over the years, there are some people that let opportunities kind of slide by them and they don't even see the opportunity. And so it's more about like keeping your eyes open for me in particular, as opposed to like having a very prescriptive future. It is, the question about what you should do, and I get this a lot from folks over the years. The question is like, well, what's really important? For sure, there's an element of you have to find something to do that you get excited about that's really interesting. At the same time, you do have to keep an eye to make sure you go into a field that not only is going to be fun, but also can provide rewards that you can live off of as well.
And so talking about interesting, what was it about 1-800-Diapers that was interesting?
Well, I have to tell you, on the surface, it did not sound interesting in terms of the product, selling diapers. In fact, I had to go to a grocery store. I lived in Seattle at the time. Like, I don't even know what these things are. I got to walk down the grocery store aisle. I remember my siblings using them, but I didn't really look at what's really going on with diapers. But almost everything is super interesting when you get into it. The thing that really attracted me to 1-800-Diapers and that opportunity was just running operations. A lot of the areas that I was involved with Boeing were highly technical, but a lot of them were on the strategy development side. They weren't really in sort of hardcore operations. And I had always had this kind of attraction to logistics and supply chain and stuff like that. Even where looking back, some of the odd things that I have done is I bought an exercise bike from Precor. Precor at the time was, headquartered in the Northwest. They may still be, but there was a defect in the bike that I had. So I ended up calling and ended up getting invited out to the factory and was taking a tour of the factory floor. And we're like, oh, here's the defect that actually created this problem. And I took a tour of ERX Logistics when I bought a washing machine. It was delivered by them. I talked my way into getting a tour of the distribution facility. So it's kind of was always in my DNA to do that. That was before I ended up taking the 1-800-Diapers or diapers.com role, but it just seemed fun to me. But it's more like once you get into any problem, it's always fascinating at the detail level. There's no free lunch on anything. Most every business, there's not easy businesses and hard businesses. They all kind of work their way to the frontier of where they're creating new things and trying to create value.
And so while you were there, you worked with Mark Laurie, who you referred to. Was there something about Mark that you saw in him? I mean, you've obviously worked with him, a number of different, places now over the years. So, he must have left an impression on you.
Oh, Mark's an incredible person. Obviously very, very smart. He has this amazing ability to he's a bold thinker, so he has like big visions, but at the same time incredibly compassionate, and also from thinking about problems and puzzle solvings, our brains are kind of wired in a similar way. So he's just a lot of fun to be around.
And so further after 800 Diapers, opportunity to partner again at Jet. And what was Jet's original mission when you guys started that business?
You almost have to go to diapers.com. Diapers.com, which turned into Quidsy, was the name of the company. We started off with the site diapers.com and then added soap.com, which was almost a drugstore, convenience store products, and then WAG for pet. And we had a number of sites, and it was really building out to be a mass retailer, but in a specialty way. It was a collection of specialty stores. That ended kind of early when we sold that to Amazon. We were just kind of in the beginning days of that. And so in the case of jet.com, there was a lot of just inefficiency, especially around Amazon, with the way products, especially third-party products, were being shipped and delivered to consumers. And so really the technology and the aha around jet.com was really, really building a platform that simultaneously encouraged consumers to shop in a way that created supply chain efficiencies. So for example, you could buy products from different retailers, of course, but the products that would sell from the same retailer would surface while the consumer was shopping, and we'd offer a little bit of a financial incentive for them to buy products that could ship together. That was just one of the means. And so it actually is a win-win. It's better for the consumer and it's better for the retailer because they're getting more products. It lowers their cost to serve the customer, et cetera. That was the big unlock. So it was going to be a mass retailer that solved the supply chain problem and offered an advantage to the consumer. But it was a very quick existence of a company. It was effectively 2 years of operations from the consumer side before we ended up selling that to Walmart.
And was the sale to Walmart an opportunistic sale? Was it because Jet wasn't achieving the kinds of goals that you were hoping that it would because of the competition with Amazon?
It was definitely an opportunistic sale. I mean, we were talking to a number of investors and strategic investors, and that's where the conversation started. And then Walmart just decided to buy the thing. And then most of us in the company pivoted over to helping Walmart with their US e-commerce business.
Right. And being part of the entrepreneurial, the startup, we have, a number of folks that I've talked to that listen where their company, early stage or, just entrepreneurial, has been bought up by somebody that's much larger, that has expertise. How was that for you? You were further along in your career than, some of the folks, but how was that for you to now be gobbled up by Walmart?
if you face what's going on as it's all different and new, it was pretty good. Walmart treated us very well. They basically turned over the U.S. e-commerce business to Mark, and we were all part of that same team. And so most of us had a new challenge at the time. It's like, helping and getting that business on a better trajectory, which was a lot of fun. I mean, I enjoyed my time at Walmart.
We all make mistakes along the way in our career. Any that stick out for you that you might want to reminisce about?
Mistakes. Oh, I don't know if I get at a certain level, I've made an enormous number of mistakes. It's about trying new things and like, oh, that didn't work. Try something different. I can't think of one where it was a huge mistake. You can always do hindsight is 2020. It's like, oh, maybe I should have gone to work for Amazon in the early days. But that's playing the hindsight game. There's none that comes to mind. There isn't. I mean, I have some examples that I've used over the years where they were mistakes, typically around leadership. In the early days, I was leading this team in a laboratory setting, and I made the mistake as an early leader of putting someone into a role that was just beyond their capability at the time. And the effect that had is it really demoralized the person over about 9 months. And I kept like shrinking the role down. It was just a disaster. It was a good learning opportunity. It's like, okay, very important to match folks with the appropriate role and don't get them too far ahead or, over their skis. I was fortunate that it all ended in a good place for that individual, but I was fortunate to observe that early on and really try to be careful about stretching people too far. It's always good to have people stretch, but if you really throw them into the deep end, it can be a disaster.
Do you have a direct-to-consumer business? I enjoy connecting with guests on this podcast because it reminds me what I love to do, strategic and tactical consulting for businesses like yours. If you'd like to speak with me about your business and see how you can add a fresh set of eyes to your team, contact me at mark@detailsinteractive.com. Now, let's get back to the marketing playbook. All right, so let's talk about the current position that you're in, the business that you're driving, Wonder. And I think I said this to you. I've done a lot of shows. I talk to people, friends about the shows, and boy, have I gotten my local friends talking about Wonder. So I'll elaborate a little bit, but tell us what that business is all about.
Yeah, so it is on-demand dining. We effectively internally call it's the next generation of restaurant chains, and it's built on a mobile platform. To really understand it, you have to take the consumer's perspective. And so it's on-demand home dining. It's via an app. Consumers can log onto the app and they would see currently 20 incredible restaurants, from fine dining. Bobby Flay Steak is one of our restaurants, all the way down to everyday food or burgers or pizza and everything in between. We also have some family style restaurants that are really good value and good quality. And so you open the app and you would see what time those restaurants would serve your food. It's usually between 40 and 60 minutes, something in that range, or sometimes even faster. Place your order, and then in 10, 15, 20 minutes, a sleek state-of-the-art mobile restaurant will pull up to your home, prepare and cook that food fresh at your door and serve it piping hot to your doorstep. That in a nutshell is the Wonder business.
And to help people picture it that are listening that have never seen the truck, people have said to me, geez, how do you describe it? It's kind of like one of the smaller Amazon delivery trucks of that shape and size. It's purple and gray.
Yeah. We call it beet. The color, our brand color is a beet color and gray. And it's a Mercedes Sprinter platform. It's a sleek. We tried to make it as attractive as we could. They're nice looking vehicles to stand out as a brand, so you can see it, but also blend in. We didn't want anything too garish, right? Driving around the neighborhood.
And you started this business in my town, my hometown here, Westfield, New Jersey. So help identify the timeline for us. I think you were saying, you started around 2 years ago, June of 2020. But how did you get your start?
The company started back in September of 2018. It was a very small team, kind of working on some concepts. But by the time we got to the stage where we're ready to start serving food, it was, as you said, Mark, a couple of years ago, June 2020 in Westfield. And we didn't have a lot of the technology built out at all. All we had at the time was a single vehicle that didn't look anything like the vehicles we were just describing. It was like a boxy looking, delivery van type thing. And we didn't have the app built. So we had a network of customers that would basically pre-schedule what time they wanted and what dinner. And we only had 2 restaurants offered. And we started with like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Roll forward by the end of that summer, late August, we were able to launch our app and have the on-demand experience that what we have today. And we only had 4 restaurants at the time. And since then, we've continued to add restaurant chains. Each restaurant, it's only 1 restaurant per vehicle, but each restaurant may have 5, 10 vehicles driving around in an evening. And we just continued to build it out from there. We started with, we wanted the experience for the customer to really stand out and be unique, high quality food served in the right amount of time. And we mostly get that right, and we're continuing to make it better. But that's really the sort of the basis of the business. Since then, we've added more features to Wonder. We have a business called Envoy. It's on the same app, so consumers can log in and get the mobile restaurant business where we serve the food, cook it right at your door. But we also have all the local restaurants that can be ordered with traditional courier delivery right there on the app. We know that the business we have is unique, but we wanted all the local restaurants to be able to participate as well in reaching customers in their communities.
And having watched the business, again, we all have perceptions of why things happen and all, but having watched the business, from the very beginning and hearing, the pros and the cons of a new business concept, one of the things you heard early on in our town was, geez, there are all these trucks, riding around. And, remember the timing of this for listeners. This is, right in the middle of COVID, lots of businesses, struggling, local businesses struggling. There was a lot of conversation about how this could potentially hurt local restaurants. So was Envoy an answer to that?
We always had planned to do Envoy because we knew we wanted to be part of the community. Our workers and everything are they come from the communities, and we wanted the local restaurants. We are a food and a tech company. It's all about the quality of the food, and we wanted the local restaurants to be part of that as well. It was for the purpose of having customers be able to use a single app to get everything they want from a food perspective, but also be friendly to the communities and have the restaurants participate. One of the things that's unique to our model is because we have the traffic on the app, we don't have to spend any marketing on getting customers from a delivery platform like the delivery platforms like DoorDash and Uber Eats need to do. We don't spend any marketing on that. It's just basically app marketing. That allows us to offer that service at a little bit lower commission than what they'd pay through the other platforms. So it's intended to be a win-win.
I will say to folks, I'm a focus group of 1, but we've probably ordered a dozen times now from Wonder.
Thank you.
And you're welcome. And the experiences on balance have been quite good. The food is tasty. I think you identified it correctly. There's some that are more pricey and more fine dining, and we had the Faro pizza a couple of weeks ago, and really enjoyed that. And I think the Taqueria del Dia, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, that's right.
That may be the best value of all of the ones that we have tried.
It is. It's really a good deal. I think it's a good deal. It can feed 4 to 5 folks, and for $50, you can pick your protein or whatever you want. Carnitas or chicken. You get a side of rice, side of beans. You can pick your tortillas. It's a good deal. You can add guacamole to it. Although, as you know, Mark, I looked at your last order when you emailed the other day and noticed that we unfortunately left off the beans. So sorry about that.
Well, that's a good segue into part of the conversation about customer service. It is very clear that you guys have devoted effort and resources to customer service. I'm sure your background as an operations guy has a lot to do with that, right?
It does, yeah. I mean, that we want to stand out. We want our operations to run perfect every single time. We do. Unfortunately, there's the reality of the world where sometimes things get missed. But yeah, we want to take care of the consumer. We don't want anything to be a stressful event, right? The whole point of this is a convenience and great quality food, so you can kind of enjoy the time with your friends or family, whoever you're eating with, or even by yourself, just enjoying the food.
And I think the customer service, the standout is, look, you do something a dozen times that's new, you're going to have, some, odds and ends. When I got your note the other day, and I hadn't sent you anything, I just answered the survey. I was impressed. That's for sure. Tell everybody about the follow up process. I have some other questions around, the experience, but once I place my order, I get my food. There's a closed loop on
Yeah.
surveying. Talk about that.
Yeah, no, it's one of the things we from the very beginning we did. So we after you've received your order, we try to time it so to give you a little bit of time. We send you a survey, and via the app, you take the survey, and you have a choice at the beginning. You can just say how you like the meal, or if you want to go into a little bit more detail, which you did, Mark, the other night, we'll offer a $5 credit off of a future meal. It goes into pretty good detail. It will take, depending on how speedy you are at the survey, could 5, maybe up to 10 minutes, where every single dish that's ordered, but we ask for what you thought of the taste, the presentation, the portion size, the value, the likelihood that you're going to reorder, and ask for commentary on that, as well as what you thought of the individual. We call our team members on these vehicles core members, chef on the road, about the hospitality, what that was like, really to try to get a very good picture of what you think of our food, because our intent is that every single dish is spectacular, and we know that if we really want to excite people, we got to get our taste score as high as we go, and that's the intent. It's really a level of information that does not traditionally exist in the restaurant world. You can kind of picture sitting in a restaurant where the general manager or a chef may walk around and say, "Oh, how was your food tonight?" And you mentally are doing that math is like, well, I'm not really going to tell you what I think because I don't have the time or I don't want to offend them or whatever. We want that data. We want to know, like, what do you really think of that dish? And our culinary team, we have about 80 chefs and engineers and food scientists in our R&D facility that literally are looking at that data all the time to try to tweak and adjust each item on the menus to make it better and better and better. And we're doing it at the same time where we're also ensuring that we can prepare that food in a speedy, expeditious manner too. So for temperature and profitability reasons.
You mentioned that the food, each truck represents one of the restaurants that you've got. That was one of the questions that some of the folks were asking me, which I was convinced that that was the case. It's one restaurant, in the truck. Again, perception. Is there less food cooked from scratch in the truck than when you first started? Is there more being done centrally as you've evolved the business?
We've always prepped and in some cases par cooked the food in our central kitchen ahead of time. It's kind of interesting. It's gone in cycles. The very early meals that we'd served, everything was kitted. And so all the componentry typically for a meal or a set of meals was in a kit. And then we quickly moved into breaking those things apart. And we've tried different things. Some of the meals in the early days used to be kind of complicated to make. And then the more complicated it is, the longer it's going to be sitting in front of your home preparing your food. And so we try to streamline and simplify that, mainly so we, for the purpose of always getting a really good result every single time. It's got to be repeatable. All the items. So, for a good example of how to think about this is what we do with steaks, for example. Our steaks, if you ordered a Bobby Flay steak, they're really nice. They're cooked perfectly. You can order to whatever temperature you want, from rare, medium rare, well done, whatever you prefer to eat. And it's got a beautiful sear on the outside. That steak, though, we par cook via sous vide in our central kitchen ahead of time to get it started. And then it's finished in an impingement oven, which is up to 550-degree air and can blow up to 50-mile-an-hour air. And we have searing plates in there that put a beautiful crust on the steak. So you wouldn't want to eat the par cook thing. It's pretty, looks like a raw piece of meat. But so it's partially cooked and then finished on the mobile restaurant. And that's true with most of the things we offer. We don't use microwaves or anything like that. It's all trusted cooking methods in the vehicle.
And when you think about, the fact that, you're doing a lot of this work centrally, this is a question that was, one of my friends said to me, geez, why do they go through the trouble of having these trucks, all these, the fixed cost of, putting all these trucks on the road? Why not just do it centrally and, have somebody, use the app the same way and then just dispatch the delivery person from that central location with the completed meal?
Well, the reason for the mobile restaurant, we call them mobile restaurants, the vehicle, is all around the consumer experience and the quality. There's so many food items that if steak, like we were just talking about, is a great example. It's not going to travel well. It needs to be, served in, 5 minutes after cooking, 5 to 10 minutes to get that perfect, steak experience. Same thing with French fries, to be
French
piping
fries.
hot.
That was the answer. That was the answer. It's all about the French fries.
It is about the French fries. In the early days, we talked a lot about French fries. We started there, the consumer experience. But if you think about it, that mobile restaurant, where it might be at your house, Mark, it may be going 2 to 10 blocks away to the next place. It's just a short drive to the next order. If we had to drive all the way back to Central Kitchen somewhere and then all the way back to the next customer, it's an enormous amount of wasted time. We literally, for an evening of service, the mobile restaurant goes out and it stays in the community. It's going door to door, fulfilling the restaurant. So as more people order, if it's a really busy night, it just gets better because the order density goes up and our drive times, go down. So you get your food faster and it's always hot and fresh. That's the concept around is we really started with what the consumer experience is and the ability to not only have ultra high quality food because it's hot and fresh, but because of the way we prepare our food, we can effectively bring any restaurant or any cuisine to any neighborhood. If you think about it, like a fine dining steakhouse, if you wanted to open a Bobby Flay style steakhouse in a town, it wouldn't work. The economics aren't there. It's why they're located in large cities. But because each one of our mobile restaurants is just a fraction of a restaurant, we can effectively bring any restaurant to any consumer. And so that you can experience Nancy Silverton's Pizzeria Mozza. We have a concept from Jose Andres coming, Marcus Samuelson, Bobby Flay, it's or DeFara Pizza you had mentioned earlier, Mark. It's a food that a lot of folks can't get or have never experienced that we can bring to anybody.
Yeah, that's great. But it's all about the French fries. That's what we were saying.
It is the French fries. We're on our 4th or 5th generation of French fries. They're really good.
Let's talk about marketing. And how you get the name out. Obviously, you have these big billboards of trucks. And how many communities did you say you were in now?
We're in 25, or we'll be in 25 soon. Yeah, probably right now it's 24.
And ballpark, how many trucks do you have on the road? How many mobile restaurants do you have on the road?
We can push out about 200. It varies by night depending on it's matched to demand. That's the one powerful thing about our model is we only need to put out the number of mobile restaurants to meet the demand. So we don't have excess capacity.
Right. And I obviously don't want you're not going to say anything that's proprietary, but one of the things we've been talking about, a mobile restaurant is out on the road from roughly 4:30 to 8:30 local time, give or take.
Yeah, we stagger them to meet the demand of when they go out there. So depending on the restaurant, they open up around 3:30, some of the earlier ones. And then during a normal weekday, 8:30 is when you can place your last order. Although Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you can order up until 10 o'clock for a select number of restaurants.
An average truck can do how many tickets over the course of an evening?
It really depends on the cuisine and the size of the order. The Bobby Flay vehicles will do fewer orders.
Fewer.
Yeah, but they can do a lot.
Good.
It's well over 10 on some, but on average, it's less than that. But that's something where as we get better and better and faster and order density goes up, it all works together to eventually it's limited by how much food you can store on the mobile restaurant.
Right. So let's go back to the marketing. So CRM, because I'm a customer,
Yeah.
I've been part of just about everything that you guys are doing.
You've seen a lot of our experiments. Yeah.
Well, honestly, I'm a marketer, an e-commerce guy, and I love some of the things that you do that are timely. I get push notifications at 4 or 5 o'clock on a Saturday night, and I don't know if that's driven by when I have previously placed orders, or that's just a peak time for when you would think people are starting to think about dinner. But tell us a little bit about some of the marketing techniques that you guys are using.
Sure. Yeah. So in general, the way we started is that our thought process is that we needed to seed the market with awareness to get it going. Like if you imagine if we're starting from scratch in a new town where no one had ever heard of us, the concept is we believe that with something like traditional, like a direct mail, so we could hit every single household, that would start the awareness process. And then as we began service in the town, the vehicles or the mobile restaurants driving around effectively are free outdoor advertising. And so you've got that, you got a traditional like direct mail, and then you've got the free outdoor advertising. And that's really the core of where we started, to think that's going to be the long-term playbook. Very, very cost effective. CAC is extremely low. To acquire customers extremely low in that world. And then we've been experimenting with a lot of different things of what to do when. We've tried a lot of stuff in the early days. In the northern part of the town that you're in, we actually did a door-to-door campaign just to see how responsive that would be. We do push notifications. We do email. People can join wait lists if they're outside of our area. So they're fairly traditional things, but I think the one unique thing that we've tried to do from the beginning is because we're very hyper local. It's all about the local. Is when we go into an area, we have a pretty good, accurate representation of how many households are in that area, and we do look at every single household and look at the consumer behavior. And if they've stopped ordering, we try to re-engage them, or if they've never ordered, we'll go to more expensive techniques to get those consumers. One of those techniques that we've tried is even doing direct mail with video mailers. We send a video mailer that has a really, I don't know if you've got one of those.
No, I did not. I don't know.
But it has a nice video that plays. It really like shows the food and kind of tells the whole story. And then it has a return label included. You just send it back to us and we recycle those, reuse them again, clean them up and use them again. That works pretty well as well. So we've tried a bunch of different techniques. There's nothing. We're always looking for what's the most effective way to do it. And we've even tried other outdoor advertising too. That's generally not in our playbook. I don't know. I can't remember if we did it in Westfield, but some train stations we put signs up. The core playbook is literally just direct mail originally, and then the outdoor advertising. One unique thing though, I would say this, Mark, from the very beginning, we wanted to see the pure signal from the consumer value prop. We wanted to see how people were reacting. And so we didn't offer any promotions or credits to consumers. And we generally don't. We're just now starting to experiment to say, hey, can we change the trajectory of growth in certain markets by doing acquisition type offers? But we generally strayed away from that early on because we wanted to see the pure response. And the response was so much higher than we originally anticipated. For example, in the northern part of Westfield, it's like the vast majority of people have ordered from us. That it was so much higher than we expected. We're like, whoa, we don't even need to do anything. Coming from e-commerce where you're doing a national program, we were always spending, to the efficient level of spend in multiple channels to acquire customers. So this was a little bit of a different thing, just given the response to the value prop.
It seems like a very heavy, I just know personally, it's a very heavy word of mouth thing, getting people talking.
That's our biggest method is word of mouth.
Yeah.
Yep.
I did see you do something in the Short Hills Mall. You had essentially a truck, a restaurant in there. I walked in one day. I was like, wow, that's really bold.
We did. We've experimented with a lot. And that's kind of the call. Our values are mastery, compassion, and courage. And so in the mastery value, we're constantly experimenting and trying new things to really try to perfect everything we do, from marketing to, the quality of our food.
Well, this is really interesting. You can tell that I'm interested in your business. I think it's fascinating what you guys are doing, and I could spend all day talking to you. But we have to end the show. So I do a 2-minute drill. There's 7 questions, 1 or 2 word answers. Most everybody can't stick to 1 or 2 words, but I say that anyway.
Oh, has anyone done 1 or 2 words?
Nah, not really.
Oh, good. Okay, so I could be the first, but I probably won't be able to answer all your questions. So,
All right, here you go.
all right.
A brand that you admire or that inspires you.
Oh wow, this is going to be very ordinary, but I've always been impressed with Apple. I just continue to admire that brand.
Okay. A favorite app on your phone. And I know where it is already.
Well, obviously, I have to say Wonder. So without Wonder, taking that one off the table, of course. But yeah, I'm going to give 2. I'm going to cheat. The app that has the most utility, believe it or not, is Apple Notes. Very simple app, but I've used it for years extensively. The app that I really enjoyed the most was sort of a guilty pleasure, is one called Flight Radar 24. It shows live, going back to my Boeing days, it shows live aircraft flying over it. It's really a fun app. Like you see an airplane flying, you open it up, it'll tell you exactly what that airplane is, how high it is, where it's going.
I think that would scare me to see all the flights superimposed. It's kind of like when I do Flight Aware or something like that.
Yeah.
The last website other than Amazon that you shop.
Other than Amazon, that's a good correction there. I recently bought a pair of shoes from directly from the brand UFOS. I don't know if you've ever heard of that brand. They're kind of they're soft. I had a little bout with plantar fasciitis, and so my brother recommended these shoes, and they're great.
Something that you're not good at, but wish that you were.
I wish I spoke a second language better.
Okay. Charitable organization that you're passionate about.
I'm not sure it goes to the level of passion, but Jose Andres' World Central Kitchen is just very inspiring. I don't know if you've seen the documentary on that, and I'm following it closely. It's just so impressive what they do. It's just incredible.
Okay. If you had one superpower, what would it be?
Oh, the one I want to be, or the one that I have?
Well, the one that what would it be if you had one?
If I had to choose a superpower that's not real, I'd love to fly, be able to fly Superman. If it's like a business superpower, I think my superpower is probably the ability to, I'm kind of a systems thinker, the ability to think very strategically high level, but also dive right down into the level of detail needed to perfect operations.
Into the weeds. That's
My
LLC is Details Interactive, and the interactive term is probably dated by now. But when I came up with the name, it was because the devil's in the details, and
it is absolutely
part of the theme of this show. And lastly, other than family, what's your most prized possession?
I don't really have a lot of prized possessions. The one thing that pops into my mind, I will say this, is when I was growing up and in high school, I played trumpet, and I was given a new trumpet. And I really cherished that trumpet. I still have it. That's probably the one thing. I don't play it anymore, which is a sad thing, but that was probably my most prized possession.
Okay, well, that's great. Scott, this was really enlightening, lots of fun and interesting for me. Thank you again for being so gracious with your time, and also humoring me in our emails and conversations about your business. I think that your business is in very good hands if you all are offering the kind of customer service that I've experienced.
Oh, well, thank you, Mark, and thanks for being a customer, and I enjoyed the discussion.
That's it. Today's game ball goes to Scott Hilton for coming on the Marketing Playbook. To me, today's 3 game-winning marketing plays were as follows. Number 1, do not let opportunity pass you by. Scott and I were talking about his career and its progression. Although he did not have a structured plan like many people do, he found that by taking some chances and being open to listening to new opportunities, he's been able to craft a very successful career. Number 2, we talk about customer service on this show frequently, and Wonder is another example of a brand that's aggressively seeking out customer feedback. They offer customer surveys after each experience, but unlike many companies, they're working hard to action what they hear, whether it be new food types or better information on the app. They're letting the customers help drive the roadmap for enhancements. And number 3, an oldie. Try new things and do not be fearful of making mistakes. companies that craft a culture of allowing people to fail will ultimately be rewarded with new thinking and new programs to either drive revenue or reduce costs. As the employee, push yourself to take some reasonable risks, whether it be in your job or in your career as a whole. Thank you, Playbook marketers, for listening to another episode. If you want to check out more pages of the Marketing Playbook, make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast spot and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. You can also follow us on Twitter at DetailsInteract and learn more at detailsinteractive.com. Until next time, the devil is in the details.